Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're stepping right into the shoes of a very lonely detective who's investigating, honestly, the most terrifying crime ever committed: the intentional, systematic murder of truth itself. We're diving back into George Orwell's 1984, zeroing in on that incredible sequence in Chapter 7. Imagine living in a world where history is just rewritten daily. Your own memory? A total liability. Concrete evidence of reality is literally thrown into a fire. So how do you even prove you're sane?
Well, our detective here is Winston Smith. He's sitting in sheer isolation, risking his life literally just by holding a pen. And he writes this desperate plea in his diary. If there is hope, it lies in the proles. He's frantically searching for a way to break free from a world built entirely on lies, right? He's looking for some physical force strong enough to just tear down the oppressive party that controls Oceania.
Act 1. The Wasted Hope. Let's see why this feels like such a trap. To understand why this fragile hope Winston clings to feels like a totally inescapable trap, you really have to look at the sheer scale of the population. The proles, the working class, make up an overwhelming 85% of Oceania. Winston realizes that if they could somehow just become conscious of their own collective strength, they wouldn't even need a secret conspiracy. I mean, they're a sleeping giant. They could easily shake off the ruling party like a horse shaking off flies.
But unfortunately, that giant is fast asleep. Winston recalls this super vivid memory to prove it. He was walking down a crowded street, right? And suddenly he hears this massive, terrifying roar of women's voices shouting in anger. His heart leaps. He thinks, finally, a riot has erupted. The revolution is actually happening. But then he rushes to the scene, and it's just heartbreaking. It's just 200 or 300 women wasting all that incredible, powerful energy fighting over a market stall selling cheap, broken tin saucepans. Literally, 2 women are in a violent, all-out tug-of-war over a pot.
So that brings us to this devastating paradox Winston writes in his diary. It's the ultimate tragic catch-22. The proles possess this immense physical and emotional energy, but it's entirely wasted on petty grievances and cheap consumer goods. They absolutely have the physical power to overthrow their masters, but they completely lack the political awareness to even realize they're enslaved. And the kicker? Without breaking the system first, they can never actually gain that awareness.
And you better believe the party uses this lack of awareness to their total advantage. The textbooks claim the party liberated these people from cruel capitalists in top hats who flogged them and forced kids into coal mines. But the bleak, actual reality of the present, the working class is treated like cattle. The party views them as natural inferiors, so they're purposely ignored, starved of any intellectual stimulation, and simply allowed to work, breed, and quietly die by age 60. The party's actual unspoken motto is basically, proles and animals are free.
Act 2. A History Made of Lies.
Since the masses won't rebel, Winston has to find another way to prove the party is lying. But honestly, just looking at the world around him is dizzying. He lives in these decaying buildings that constantly smell of boiled cabbage and bad lavatories. It's bare, it's dingy, yet the telescreens are constantly blasting these fabricated, glorious statistics, claiming infant mortality is magically dropped from 300 to 160 per thousand, and that life is just better and healthier than ever. That disconnect between what he physically experiences and what he's told creates this total psychological terror.
The true horror here is that the erasure of memory is absolute. Without any real historical documents, Winston has absolutely zero benchmark for human happiness. His only proof that things used to be better is just a gut instinct. It's what he beautifully calls a mute protest in your own bones. Just this physical, deep-seated, aching feeling that something is inherently wrong.
But as we know, feelings aren't facts. Winston realizes the psychological trap he's in. How can you possibly prove a lie if both the past and the present are completely controlled by the exact same people? He feels like he's trying to solve a single math equation with 2 unknowns. There are no fixed variables. Truth has become completely subjective, impossible to calculate, and impossible to prove.
Act 3. The Ghostly Truth.
This desperate search for a benchmark of truth leads Winston to a really tragic memory about 3 original leaders of the revolution: Jones, Aronson, and Rutherford. Just imagine the absolute destruction of human solidarity here. By 1965, these men were arrested and just vanished. A year later, they resurfaced to make these public, tearful confessions to treason, only to be pardoned, totally ruined, rearrested, and then executed. It was your classic show trial, meant to just strike absolute terror into the population.
But here's the thing. Winston actually saw them during that brief window they were free. He vividly remembers seeing Rutherford at the Chestnut Tree Cafe. Now, Rutherford was once this famous cartoonist, but now he was physically decaying, totally hollowed out, sporting a broken nose from severe torture. He just sat there, weeping silently while this haunting song played on the telescreen. The lyrics, "I sold you and you sold me." It's a chilling representation of how everyone in the society eventually betrays everyone else under the extreme pressure of torture.
And then, out of nowhere, the impossible happens. Fast forward to 1973. A smoking gun literally drops onto Winston's desk at work through a pneumatic tube. It's a mislaid fragment of paper, a half-page torn out of a newspaper from 10 years earlier. It's a photograph of a party function in New York, and standing right in the center are those three exact men. The significance of this is just earth-shattering. They had confessed to being in Eurasia on that exact date, betraying military secrets. This photo was concrete, undeniable, physical proof that their confessions, and therefore the party's entire reality, were absolute lies.
Act 4. The ultimate surrender. So, Winston is finally holding it, right? A fossil bone that could blow the party's entire narrative to atoms. But sheer, isolating terror takes over. Winston knows he's constantly being watched by the telescreen. His survival instincts kick in immediately. Step 1. Keep his face totally expressionless. Step 2. Quickly cover the photograph with another piece of paper so no one sees. Step 3. Within 10 minutes, self-preservation forces him to drop that evidence straight down the memory hole, where it's instantly consumed by flames. He destroys the only real proof he ever had.
Looking back, he realizes that even if he'd had the courage to keep the photograph, it wouldn't have mattered. At all. Because the party trains its citizens in a psychological defense mechanism called doublethink. Basically, it means holding two totally contradictory beliefs in your mind at the exact same time and accepting both of them as true. The party's grip on the human mind is so total that even if he showed that photograph to the public, the party would simply dictate that it wasn't real. And the crazy part? The people would believe them.
And this leads Winston to a terrifying existential dilemma. He writes, "I understand how. I do not understand why." He gets the mechanics of rewriting history. He understands falsifying the statistics, burning photos in memory holes. But he's deeply haunted by the motive. Why? Why go to such exhausting, extreme lengths to control every single passing thought of every single human being? He stares at a picture of Big Brother on the cover of a children's book. He literally feels a heavy pressure pushing into his skull, making him want to deny the evidence of his own senses. He starts wondering if he's just a lunatic, a minority of one, for believing the past is unalterable. And this, guys, this culminates in his most terrifying realization yet. He realizes that eventually the party is going to announce that 2 and 2 make 5, and you won't just say it to survive the torture. You will be forced to actually believe it. It's the ultimate symbol of intellectual oppression. They aren't just making you lie. They are completely destroying the very concept of objective reality. Because think about it. If the party can dictate the fundamental laws of mathematics and rewrite your mind to believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5, did the truth ever really exist at all? I want you to take that question with you today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember, keep questioning what you see.